Doug Pederson headed to Jacksonville to take over as Jaguars head coach. Trevor Lawrence looking for an upgrade at head coach. Perhaps have a great sophomore season in Jacksonville. Maybe compete for the AFC South title, even though you got Tennessee. I mean, look, Doug Pederson can do some things. He led the Eagles to the Super Bowl, their first ever Super Bowl. They beat Tom Brady, the Patriots. Nick Foles was his quarterback. So look, he can make magic happen. And you don't even need to argue. Like, Trevor Lawrence is better than Nick Foles. I mean, Nick Foles is a Super Bowl champion. Trevor Lawrence is not. Trevor Lawrence is a national champion. But look, in terms of raw talent, Trevor Lawrence is better. There's no arguing that. The mess that is left behind, it's a lot for Doug Pederson to clean up. Urban Meyer left the franchise really in a bad spot. Bad culture. No one wanted to come play there. It was an absolute mess. All of the viral moments. Just not a good situation. The good thing is they got draft picks and plenty of them. They can reload, and they got plenty of money, nearly $60 million this offseason, so they can reload in a hurry, and Doug Pederson can get them relevant. Let's get some instant analysis. Welcome to two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and CBS Sports HQ NFL analyst and host of the Pick Six podcast, Will Brinson. B-Mac, Doug Pederson to the Eagles. Your reaction is what? Doug Pederson going back to the NFL to the Jaguars. Your reaction?
Well, I like the move for Jacksonville. Doug Pederson is a former head coach. He's had success in the National Football League. You talked about winning a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. So he understands how to build a sound organization with structure, being able to basically build from the ground up. He has shown the ability to get the best out of his quarterback. Remember, at one point in time under his watch, Carson Wentz was in the MVP conversation before having that season-ending injury. And that's a huge, huge plus for Jacksonville, because seeing what he was able to do with Doug Pederson, you would hope he can get some of the same results from Trevor Lawrence.
You know, you look at this list of coaches for the Jacksonville Jaguars that we had up there, and Gus Bradley went 14-48. One, I don't know how you let somebody go 14-48 before you make a move at the head coaching position. And then two, the crazy thing is he's like I believe the fourth winningest coach full-time coach in Jaguars history, and only the third losingest coach in Jaguars history. I like this hire. I know because of things that have transpired, with the Brian Flores situation, that there will be criticism of the NFL and of the Jacksonville Jaguars for being the next team to hire a middle-aged white guy, and that is very understandable. I think we do need to sort of look at these situations uniquely, and for Jacksonville, look, this is a franchise that has had a good run with Tom Coughlin, had an okay run with Jack Del Rio, but has largely floated through mediocrity for the last 15 years or whatever it is since Del Rio was gone. Doug Pederson is a steady and a veteran coach, a Super Bowl winning coach, and a guy who has shown, as B-Mac just pointed out, that he is very capable of developing quarterbacks. Carson Wentz, who looks completely broken at this point, was an MVP. He was going to win the MVP until he tore his ACL against the Rams in week 14. Then he goes out and they bring in Nick Foles, who is a lifelong backup journeyman streaky quarterback, and they win the Super Bowl. What the Jaguars need is some stability. They need a guy who has been there, a guy who has done it. They don't need to try and, try something new, a new experiment. They have to get somebody in there, a capable offensive mind with the ability to mold a quarterback before they waste Trevor Lawrence, one of the greatest talents to come out of the college football in the past 30 years.
Look, but Will, you argue, right? I mean, that Eagles team as a whole is better than what this Jaguars team is right now. I mean, look, I know Nick Foles, was a backup, and look, it's hard to strike twice in terms of lightning in a bottle with Nick Foles. And look, Trevor Lawrence is the better talent, but that Eagles team as a whole was way better. The defense was way better. Offensively, they were better. I mean, look, they plug and played Nick Foles, and he won a Super Bowl. So this Jaguars team needs a lot of help.
Yeah, Hakeem, and I think that's really the crux of this whole situation, right? Byron Leftwich, who I really would have liked as a hire, wanted to come, but he did not want to work with Trent Baalke, the current GM. He wanted to bring in, shout out NC State, Adrian Wilson, VP of Pro Personnel for the Arizona Cardinals, to be his GM. That was his, I don't demand, I guess is the best word for it, but he told the Jaguars, look, I'm not coming back there to work with the guy that you have in place right now. And so the Jaguars decided to go in a different direction. I would have liked to have seen Leftwich and Adrian Wilson try it in Jacksonville. I think that would be really interesting. But now we have Doug Pederson working with, presumably, Trent Baalke. Although I did see Jason LaCanfora, CBS Sports NFL insider, tweet out that Rick Spielman, the former Vikings GM, could potentially come to Jacksonville in some capacity. I have concerns about how Trent Baalke will operate with Doug Pederson. We saw in Philadelphia, really kind of the reason that Doug ended up being, I call him Doug, I'm going to get in trouble with Devo. The reason he ended up getting, kind of run out of town was an inability to operate with Howie Roseman in sort of power games and struggles. That's basically Trent Baalke's go-to move in the front office. So that's my biggest concern is, will the front office and coaching staff work in concert to bring in quality young players to build up around Trevor Lawrence, or will we see a power struggle like we've seen with Baalke and with Peterson before?
Yeah, they were top 10, the Eagles were, 2017, 2018, 2019 in several offensive categories.
Very
and then his
good
last
team.
season,
Very good
and then
team.
his last season in Philadelphia, they were bottom of the league, and then it led to his firing. B-Mac, you heard Will there talk about perhaps Byron Leftwich. Would you have liked to have seen Byron Leftwich in Jacksonville over Doug Pederson?
No question. I mean, he played for the organization, right? That would be like you asking, Will Brinson, would he like to see me coach the Pittsburgh Steelers, or, you coach the Pittsburgh Steelers? He would say, me, I played for the organization. B-Left was invested in the organization. I mean, people cheered for him. He was a first-round selection, and also having the offensive mind that he has, played in the NFL. And look, I understand working with Tom Brady, you would look good coaching Tom Brady. Almost anybody would. But he did some positive things with that offense and learned from one of the best to ever do it, not to mention what he did when he was in Arizona as well. So, yes, that would have B-Left would have been my first option for Jacksonville. But he was only willing to accept that job if he can select his general manager. And sometimes when we see there's a rocky relationship between the head coach and the GM, Will just talked about the issue that Peterson had in Philadelphia. It's not going to be a long-lasting relationship. If you go into the relationship already looking at the GM sideways and the vice versa with the GM looking at the head coach. So I think Byron wanted to wait until he can go into a situation where he can actually have some say-so into who will be his GM. And clearly Peterson was okay with Baalke remaining there. Sean Khan definitely loves Trent Baalke. He didn't want to lose him for whatever reason. I don't know. But clearly Peterson is okay with the GM staying in place.
Well, look, all three of us, we're all married men, right? Marriage is hard enough as it is. Arranged marriages are even tougher. I mean, we've seen that play out multiple times, right? Where we're going to pair this head coach and this GM, and they think they're going to work in concert together, and it never works out. And so for Byron Leftwich, because for a lot of the time, Will, we thought that this was going to be the move that Jacksonville makes to bring in the former player. Trent Baalke's out. He brings in his guy, and it doesn't work out. And now Doug Pederson said, well, I want to get back in the league. I want to coach. I want to coach a quarterback who's a number one overall pick. I got a number one draft pick. I've got all this cap space. I mean, for Doug Pederson, this is a no-brainer to get back in the league.
Yeah, and look, I mean, one thing I always said about the Urban Meyer when he was hired by the Jaguars, and I wish I'd been more aggressive in saying that this is going to flame out and be a disaster, because it ended up being exactly that. That's what I believed it was going to be. I just really didn't want his wife getting mad at me on Twitter again. Instead, but the one thing I said about Urban the whole time was, you can say whatever you want about Urban as a coach or a player. That dude knows how to pick a job. Like, he is really good at picking his job. Got Florida, it was set up to win easily. Went to Ohio State, was set up to win easily and quickly, and jumped on that. And then went to Jacksonville, where he was set up to win easily and quickly if he did his job well. And, he just didn't. And so I think Peterson here, look, this is a guy who coached in Philadelphia and won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. The media in Jacksonville is going to feel like a Sunday Funday brunch for Doug Pederson compared to the time that he spent in Philadelphia with those animals, like hawking over every carcass that they can find in the press. And I love the Philly media, but they're pretty intense. The fans too. This is a job where the expectations are low. The pressure is low. You have this quarterback in Trevor Lawrence that I think anybody who covers professional football will tell you is a very, very good prospect. Bad year last year, still made a ton of great throws, has a ton of upside. You have all this cap space. You have high draft picks. You do have some young talent on the roster, and you should be given plenty of time and plenty of flexibility and freedom to construct the roster in your vision, presuming that the Baalke thing relationship can work out. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a great job to take if you're a competent coach and you think you can win there.
B-Mac, you're a former player. You won 2 Super Bowls with the Steelers. The biggest complaint, or one of the biggest complaints Urban Meyer said, was that he couldn't get players to come to Jacksonville. He said his free agency's hard. You can't just go out and recruit guys like in college. Of course you can't. It doesn't work that way. They pay you money in the NFL. They also pay you money in college too, but that's another story. The Jaguars have nearly $60 million in cap space. That's second most behind the Dolphins this offseason. So you're a player right now in the NFL, and Doug Pederson reaches out to you. What's it going to take for you to get down to Duval County and play for the Jaguars?
Well, top dollar, number one. I think Jacksonville will have to pay more than other organizations that are established, because the issue for Jacksonville, we just showed the list of coaches over the last, 10 plus years. I mean, they've been running through coaches, man, like it's easy. And it's not, but they've been so bad they've had to really play musical chairs at that spot. So they will have to overpay. One thing about the state of Florida, there's no state taxes, so that's a plus. But hopefully, the respect that Doug Pederson has established while coaching in the National Football League could be the biggest recruiting pitch for their organization, especially when it comes to offensive players, right? He's an offensive-minded coach. Clearly, he's hands-on with the quarterback. So if you're a skilled guy, you may like that. You may get opportunities offensive line-wise as well. He will highlight the offense. And then it's all about his staff. Who will he put on his staff when it comes to special teams, when it comes to the defense? You know what I mean? Being able to get sound quality coaches that have a name already established and respected in the National Football League. That's the best way. You got to be able to put people in places that current players, experienced players know and they respect, to be able to get them to come down to Jacksonville. Because right now, Jacksonville, outside of the sun, they have nothing positive going on with their organization. They have been historically bad for quite some time. So the best way to find a way to change that, number one, the head man in charge has to be a guy that we know, we respect to some degree. He has a championship. Those things have to be the biggest recruiting pitch for Doug Pederson and the Jacksonville Jaguars, to be able to get well-known free agents to think about signing there.
NFL worst 15-50 since reaching the AFC Championship game in the 2017 season. They lost to the Patriots, and then, of course, the Patriots lost to the Eagles, who were coached by Doug Pederson. So some connecting the dots there. Look, the Jaguars are bad. I mean, they are, Will. They're just a bad football team. But look, they have the number 1 pick. Your good buddy Ryan Wilson has them taking Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. Is that a good fit for Jacksonville with their first overall pick, or do you need to look offensive line to continue here to try and protect Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I think when you look at this Jaguars team, and by the way, I mean, what if you were getting $100K for every loss the Jaguars got? You know, you'd be retired on your own island at this point.
You'd own a team.
You look at yeah, you could buy the Broncos. The Jaguars are Cam Robinson and Andrew Norwell are both free agents, so that's the whole left side of the line for Trevor Lawrence. And you can say whatever you want about their production. I think when you're losing 2 guys on the left side, though, you do need to try to make sure you can shore things up for your young quarterback. And look, the reality is Trevor Lawrence is talented enough that he's going to get a contract probably after his 3rd season. It would be shocking. Like, I think he'll have a good next 2 years. He'll get a contract. And so your window's a little bit smaller in terms of trying to make a run. But I think the move here you consider either my boy Icky out of NC State, the left tackle who's getting a ton of buzz with draft Twitter, or even Evan Neal out of Alabama. The other option, too, Hakeem, is that let's say, I know this is you get 2013 vibes of this class about the quarterbacks, but Malik Willis is putting on a show in Mobile right now at the Senior Bowl. Ryan Wilson breaking it all down for CBSSports.com live from the scene. But with Malik, I think if he were to just continue to rise up and he were to maybe shore himself up as a top 10 pick, you could potentially, if you're Jacksonville, try and lure some teams into trading up to one for a cheaper than normal cost of doing that trade, and maybe you can move down and really get some assets for the future. But I think left tackle for me would probably be the move, considering they have talent at defensive end, and you got to get that protection for the young quarterback.
All right, well, the Jaguars going with Doug Pederson as their new head coach, looking to revive that franchise. They have struggled mightily, but they are armed with picks. They're armed with cap space, so they do have potential and hope to get that thing turned around. BMAC, there's 3 head coaching openings left: Houston, New Orleans, Miami. Who would you like to see get those jobs? We talked about Byron Leftwich. Eric Bieniemy is a name out there. Certainly Brian Flores is still out there, even though the allegations that he's brought upon the NFL and the teams, certainly a situation there that needs to get figured out.
I mean, when you look at Houston, that's a rebuild. And if you're thinking about trying to become a head coach and you're forcing that into that situation, you want to make sure they're going to rock with you through the good times and the bad times. Offensively, though, I mean, listen, they got to start from scratch. And I like Eric Bieniemy in that spot. Houston, I like Eric Bieniemy in the New Orleans spot as well. I don't think Byron Leftwich probably would be a head coach this year with him turning down the Jacksonville Jaguars job. I think he may just wait for BA to retire. I think this could be Bruce Arians' last year. And if you're B Left, I mean, you know that. And I'm pretty sure the organization respects him as a coach, as a guy that's relatable to the players. Just wait it out. And when BA, walks away, guess what? You're the next man in charge, and you don't have to worry about moving. And you're part of an organization that you have helped win a championship. And then when you transition to the Miami Dolphins, I mean, they have so much going on, guys. That's a tough situation, because if you think about this, you don't know exactly what will happen with some of the allegations that have been directed to the owner and the organization. Will they be hit with fines? Will they be suspended or punished to some degree? And knowing if you're the new head coach in charge, that all might come down under your watch. So that's the wild card for me. Miami is the wild card because everything that's tied to them. And I still would like to see Brian Flores get a job too as well. I know he's one of the top candidates for the Houston Texans. He has experience in the National Football League. He's been successful. So those names, when you talk about Eric Bieniemy, when you talk about Brian Flores, and I know Jones from San Francisco, the play caller for San Francisco, quote unquote play caller, he's been getting some hype as well, some love as well. So I think he could be in running for one of those 3 jobs. Yeah, Byron Leftwich and Eric Bieniemy both getting interviews with the Saints. So we'll see how that plays out over the weekend. But the carousel continues, and the carousel stops in Jacksonville on Doug Pederson. That's who they're going with. Here's a look at the coaching carousel. Nathaniel Hackett to the Broncos, Matt Eberflus to the Bears, Brian Dable to the Giants, Josh McDaniel to the Raiders, Kevin O'Connell to the Vikings. That cannot be official till after the Super Bowl. And the latest, Doug Pederson to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who's next? Who's going to fill the slots? Houston, New Orleans, and Miami.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.